Hi, this is Jack Canfeld, and welcome back to Hollywood Live. My next guest is Kevin Hodes, and he is the CEO of a company called Swipe It down in Dallas, Texas. It's a company that deals with credit card processing, but he takes it to a whole other level of integrity and really working at a whole new, I'm going to call it transformational level in business. So I'm really excited to have you with me here today, Kevin.
Thanks, Jack. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So tell me about you, before we jump into the questions that I'm going to ask you, just tell me a little bit about yourself and your business.
Well, you know, I've been married since 1997. I have two wonderful children. My wife is back home taking care of the house and making sure things are running the way they need to be, while I'm out making sure that I can help people all over the country with my company called Swipe It. And Swipe It, we've been doing this for, since 1999, we've been bringing some honesty and integrity to the real slimy world of credit card processing.
So what's slimy about it?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that will come into our business and they jump out and they leave the merchant kind of standing there all by themselves with no way of understanding of who to contact, how to make things work. So there's a lot of influx of individuals such as that.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back a bit. I know, because we talked before we got on camera here, you started out, I think, as a chef.
Yes.
And then you ended up from New York, Brooklyn, you ended up in Texas, where your company is. Give us a little bit of that journey. And as part of that, I want you to share with me, there was a moment, I'm sure, when you decided to get into the business you're in. What was that defining moment or that event that transformed?
So after going to college to become a chef, I was actually in McAfee, New Jersey, the old Playboy Club. And at that time when I was transforming myself, I realized I really wanted to be involved in the food industry to extents that I couldn't figure out. And something happened and I was laid off and I was homeless. And I actually didn't have anywhere to go. I could have went back home to my dad and figured out something there, or I could go to New York City, and that's where I went and slept on a couch. I actually slept on my sister's couch for 8 or 9 months until she kicked me off, and I found a job working in the yachting industry. And the first job I ever worked for was Al Copeland on his big private yacht called the Cajun Princess. And Al, he was from New Orleans, and the corporate chef that he had on his big private yacht, his name was Francis. And Francis then looked at me one day and said, "We need to go to Mississippi." And I said, "Are you crazy?" And he was from there. So obviously I picked up, left, we went to Mississippi, and we had a great run of some different restaurants that we had contracts with, some casinos. Mm-hmm. I then moved on to some other private yachts, and one of the private yachts I worked on was for the original distributor of Coca-Cola in 1906. Wow. Their family, you know, they distributed Coca-Cola, and he taught me some incredible things about business that were things I could never in a million years have ever found out about. But when you're on a big private yacht and you're going from Florida to the Bahamas and you're stuck in a room with somebody, well, what are you going to do? You're going to have a conversation with him, pick his brain, get whatever you can.
Right.
But I really enjoyed working in the yachting industry.
And then how did you get to where now you're the CEO of Swipe It?
When I was working on that private yacht, the owners of that boat were the original distributors of Coca-Cola. He once told me that every time somebody opens up a Coke, that he made a little piece of the action. So I always kind of stuck that in the back of my brain, and I realized I needed to find something that might actually give me the opportunity to be similar to that individual. So that's how I was doing some business consulting, and somebody said, "Hey, you need to check out this credit card processing business." And I said, "I don't want to sell credit card machines." He says, "No, it's a really good business to be in, and there's a lot of changes, so you might want to jump on board." And I looked at it, and you know what? That's when I realized, you know what, I'm going to do this. So now we're talking since 1999. I've been in this crazy business, and it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it.
So talk about, because you mentioned in the beginning that the credit card industry was slimy, and I know that you're not. So what do you do different, or how did you decide that you were going to play the game a little differently in terms of not being slimy?
Yeah, you know, the industry has a lot of influx of people in it because obviously there's everybody using credit cards. I'm sure you probably paid for your breakfast this morning with a credit card. Well, there's a lot of people that realize they need to get into that business, and then they join and work with the organization, teach them a specific way how to sell that to customers all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the method of selling has been the same all the time. And they teach them to sell them a credit card machine or create a merchant account by accepting a payment for an application fee. And so it's an all upfront based business so that that individual can then make a living and pay his bills and everything that he needs to do in his own life. But the slimy part comes when the company takes over and then they start changing things. And we're not sure what, the actual agent has good intentions, but then they start realizing as they're moving forward that maybe that customer should not have actually bought something that they sold them. And so they start doubting themselves of what they're looking to potentially have as sales jobs and what they're selling now. The slimy part is really when the individual doesn't follow up, doesn't come through with what they say they're going to do. And we always find that in what I do is I've actually brought into the whole process the ability for people to get great service and a great price, and then they know where to find people. Most of the people in my industry, if you were to Google them, they would never even show up on the map. I make it so that people should be, or I explain to people or explain to merchants, they need to Google when it comes to your money. And I know, Jack, that just like you and I, our money is important to us. This is our paycheck. This is how we make our money. We should be making sure that we're doing everything in our power to make sure that we're watching who is helping us with those funds. So just like you would never just talk to any random financial planner or some random banker on the corners of the street, why would you just talk to any random individual that's coming in to say, oh, I could save you all this money on your credit card processing? That's where we have a lot of sliminess in there, because they'll just tell the merchant what they want to hear. And they, of course, they're just trying to make a sale, right?
Right, not good. So you've been incredibly successful, and then some of it is what you just talked about, your level of integrity and so forth. But what would you say is the secret of your success?
My secret to my success is really being where my customers need me to be when they need me. Kind of a little tongue twister there, but it really is important when you've got an issue and you're standing there. Maybe it's you have a 10 location account, you're in Phoenix, Arizona, and you need someone to help you with your business. And it's your credit card processing, you have a question, you need ways to figure out how that everything comes around. But more importantly, your customer that you're taking your payment from doesn't have the time to be standing there waiting for too long. You don't want to make your customers angry. You want to make things happen as quick and as fast as possible. So you need to be able to get a hold of people that can be able to follow up everything that they're promising and delivering on.
So it's keeping your promise. It's
Yes.
being available. It's being service oriented.
Yes.
I get that from you as we talked before we even came on air. How committed you are to being of service.
Service, service, service. A lot of times people forget in business how important it is to take care of the customer. A lot of people will just sign them up and then move away, and they don't realize that they still have to service accounts.
Yeah.
They need to be there when they need them.
There's no relationship. Yeah.
Yes.
Very
My whole
good.
company was based on relationships, Jack. If you don't know me, if you haven't met me or someone in my organization, then it's going to be hard when you call us to say, hey, I'm interested in working with you. Most people usually call up and say, hey, I know Jack, and he said you're the best at what you do, and I just need you to solve all my problems. And that's what we do, is we're a problem-solving organization, referral-based, that's been around since 1999.
Very good. Good for you. Now, here you are, successful entrepreneur, and there was a time when you were just starting out, and you were going, hey, I will start a credit card service processing company. How old were you? That's 1999.
Yes.
How old were you then? I'm curious.
So I was 32 in 1999.
32. Okay. So here you are today, successful entrepreneur. If you were to look back and have some advice for that 32-year-old that would have made his journey easier, more effective, faster, whatever, what advice would you have given?
Wow. You know, I would say in 2004, I had my first child. And I met Oprah Winfrey in 2004. And I met Oprah at 2 o'clock in the morning while I was feeding my daughter. And I never really watched much of the shows, but there was one thing that came true to me at that time, was that she was very much into giving back. And that's when I realized that I needed to really give back and find something that was really going to give me a path to really give back. And in 2004, I didn't really know what it was, but then I really kind of figured out that just giving back to the community was a way that people would realize that I was the real deal, and that they could find me and they would know that I was going to be there when they needed them. But if I could go back to 1999, just those few years earlier, I would definitely have realized at that time that I probably should have been giving back instead of thinking about mostly myself. And that's when I had the epiphany back in 2004 to really, and then 2005, 2006, things really started taking off even more, because, as you know, Jack, when you do give back, it always comes back to you in
Right.
ways that are, it's unfathomable. And since then, I really enjoy a lot of military functions. I sponsor Donnie Nelson's Military Appreciation Night. With he's from the Dallas Mavericks, but he has a D-League team called the Texas Legends. And I sponsor Military Appreciation Night, and we present portraits at halftime to families of fallen soldiers.
Wow.
I'm on the board of directors of the American Fallen Soldiers Project, and I've been involved with that organization for the past 8 years. It's definitely something that's very near and dear to my heart. You know, the families themselves that go out and they sacrifice the loss of a loved one in service to their country typically aren't recognized as much as, you know, it's great to always say thank you to a military professional, but what happens to the families that have lost a loved one? So this project called the American Fallen Soldiers Project is
Beautiful.
definitely one that's near and dear to my heart.
Excellent, excellent. You know, it's interesting. I just had dinner at Oprah's house about 2 weeks ago. And one of the things she said to the group of us that was there was, early in her career, she just said to God, use me.
Wow.
Use me. You know, just use me to make a difference. And whatever it is you tell me to do, I'll do. And I think everyone, when they make that commitment to just be of service, life magically transforms.
I 100% agree, and that's exactly some of the reasons for my biggest successes, is because of all the avenues of giving back to the community, whether it was my city, you know, charitable organizations in the area, or just meeting somebody and saying, you know what, you did a great job today, and thanks so much for doing what you're doing. And that smile always goes a long way, doesn't it?
It does, it does, it
Yeah.
does. Now, you have a chapter in this book, The Soul of Success. What is
Yes.
the main message in that chapter?
Yeah, the chapter is called The Truth in Credit Card Processing. I welcome anybody in business to read the chapter to get a real inclination of what's taking place in the credit card processing industry. I've kind of brought some things in there that I'm really excited to let people know about. Obviously, number one I'll touch on is business owners all over the country are getting bombarded with phone calls, small to medium-sized business owners. And it's always a phone call trying to set up a meeting with one of the other individuals in my industry. I always like to make sure people pay attention to the phone calls they receive and be careful of who they're making appointments to have come out to their business. A lot of times they're more in tune to do things for themselves. They're not as more in tune to be taking care of the customer, which they should be.
Right.
And that's the bad part.
So the book's available on Amazon.com. People can find that there. But if people wanted to get a hold of you, where would they go?
Oh, it'd be great for people to actually reach me at my website. They can find all of our contact information at swypit.com. Of course, great website, great information. Come check it out.
Very good. Well, you're fun to be with. I hope people will do business with you. I love to do business with people I like and enjoy and trust, and you're one of those guys. So thanks for being with us today. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this message.